Hey, everybody. I'm finally moving on to the next simple astrology, making my way through the 12 signs, and we've made our way to Capricorn. So today is going to be Capricorn Day. And anyway, yeah, I've been committed. I'm doing, so I don't yet know what I'm going to do next for videos. I guess I'll just throw this out there. I know I wanted to get some basics on my channel because it just makes it easier with students and clients, or just with myself, to be able to go back and listen to that one particular archetypal energy. But as always, if you have ideas or things that you would like me to share on my channel, I'm certainly open to it. And you can contact me through my website, taraall.com, or my email is tara@taraall.com. All right, so let's get into Capricorn. So with Capricorn, we're coming from Sagittarius, from the 9th sign to the 10th sign. And with Capricorn, we are back to cardinal energy, which is initiating energy, initiating something new. And in astrology, the triplicities, or each of the 4 quadrants, which are made up by 3 signs. The first of those is always cardinal, which initiates something new. You can think of that as Aries. Aries is the best first example of that because it starts the entire wheel. And then we move from that initiating energy. The next sign is always fixed, which brings value, meaning, and purpose. It makes things useful. It contains them, does something with them, isn't just comfortable talking about it, but wants to do something with it. And then we always move then to a mutable sign. And mutable signs are all about relative perspective. Mutable signs are either helping us change, adapt, transform, or get ready to end something to move into something new. They really are that transitional energy. And the whole wheel goes that way. Cardinal, fixed, mutable, cardinal, fixed, mutable, cardinal, fixed, mutable, cardinal, fixed, mutable. And getting comfortable, especially if you're just learning astrology, with these basics really helps you hone in to the energy, because just knowing a sign is cardinal tells you right away that that energy and that person who is that, for example, if we're talking about sun signs here, cardinal sign people tend to initiate things. They get things going. And the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So we have just reached our final cardinal sign in the wheel. And the cardinal signs also represent the gateways into each of the new seasons, which again, initiating something new. With Capricorn, it's an earth and yin sign, yin or feminine. And we don't think about Capricorn that way very often. Capricorn gets masculinized a lot. So it's important to remember that it is a feminine sign. One of the ways that helps me think about that is I work with the tarot a lot as well. And in some of my decks, the Mother Earth card, which would be the Queen of Discs or the Queen of Pentacles, is associated with Capricorn. She's oftentimes represented as, a knowing, caring, providing Earth Mother, connected with nature. Nature in general, there's a very big yin feminine energy in there. And so when I think about Capricorn, one of the reasons why Capricorn is so good at running a big company or taking charge of things, is that Capricorn's really good at taking what's already there. Think about this: yin, receiving. I receive what's already here, and then reorganizing that into ways that work better or that flow. So in some ways, just how we think about nature, right? It's always kind of reorganizing itself. And so that's one way you can think about Capricorn. So, and from this other perspective of initiating, Capricorn is initiating the public self-identity. So when we're looking in someone's chart, and we're looking at the midheaven, the very top of the chart, the cusp of the 10th house. That sign tells us very much about how that person is seen out there in the world publicly, how they're self-actualizing in a public way, how maybe they are of service or helping or working out there in the world, versus the polarity point to Capricorn is Cancer. And that's the private, inner, emotional, who I am when I'm by myself on the inside sense of self. So as always in these little talks, I talk about polarities, and with Cancer and Capricorn, polarities are always one field of energy, right? And so oftentimes when we think about the as within, as without, I really think about Cancer, Capricorn. Cancer initiating the inner emotional experience to really get a solid feeling of who I am as a person, as a being, if you don't like the word person, but kind of for myself in my own right, like how I feel at home and like me inside myself and in my private life. Then we get to Capricorn up there, the polarity point, and now we're initiating ourselves publicly, which is why sometimes we use the word career. I don't, I use the word career as well, but it's limiting because you don't have to have a quote unquote career to have a public identity. It's like just how you're seen. Um, I use this example about myself. Like, it wouldn't matter what quote unquote career I'm in. I could be working at a grocery store. I could be digging ditches. I could be working at a prison. I could be teaching, or I could be doing astrology like I am right now. And I would still, on some level, be digging into psychological stuff and getting into counseling type conversations with people. Like, that's just me, and it's how I'm seen. When I worked at the university for many, many years, people would call my office, I had an extra chair next to my desk, and they called it the therapy chair, right? So it didn't matter that at the time I was a operations manager, in a radiology department. I still did that job, but the therapy chair, in some ways was how I was known. So, this kind of gives you a feel for what I mean by public identity, public sense of self. Capricorn, earth energy, it's Capricorn is it's such a big field. I hardly know where to begin, and I don't want to run on forever. It's funny, I actually woke up in the middle of the night thinking about this, and thinking about how many shoulds and labels and containers we put on Capricorn, which is interesting because we then complain about Capricorn for doing the same thing. And yeah. So it's an interesting process to think about. We put it in a box, and then we complain about that energy keeping things in boxes. Just something to pay attention to. There's more room to this sign. Certainly Capricorn is about doing our great works. Capricorn is about endurance and discipline, right? It's about, we talk about climbing the mountain all the time. For me, and Sagittarius is where I really feel like we climb the mountain, in the sense of like going as big and high as we can go. But when we talk about climbing the mountain in Capricorn, I feel like it's more like making the work happen. It's like, okay, I had the idea, now I'm going to actually get there. But my favorite image of this part of the wheel is that with Sagittarius, you climb the mountaintop and you get the bigger view. And there's excitement and enthusiasm. But when you step to the next sign, Capricorn, that's where you actually need to do something with it. And you actually need to then carry that big idea, or that new expansion of consciousness or thinking or space, or wherever it is you've reached with that Sagittarian breadth of experience. And then you need to bring it down the mountain so you can share it and use it and find ways to make it ways to contribute it to society, ways to harness it and manifest things from it. And Capricorn is very much a manifester. Man, Capricorn energy is amazing that way. Capricorns get things done, and they find a way to get them done. We sometimes Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of every sign. I don't have a favorite sign. But when I know that something needs to get done, or I need someone to help me think through practically, the best way to make things happen and to really pay attention to what the pitfalls might be, to really like draw on the wisdom from the past, but at the same time have a vision open to how things could actually move within the space. Capricorn's amazing for that, especially a more liberated Capricorn, um, who isn't so stuck in, fear of feeling, fear of failure sometimes, or fear of being responsible for things, or even having taken on too much responsibility. Because one thing that can happen with Capricorn is it has like a parental authoritative energy to it. And Capricorn is very much about stepping up and taking charge. My first teacher and my longtime friend and colleague Laura Nalbandian, she would always talk about Capricorn is about responsibility and accountability. And responsibility is just your ability to respond, right? Which is interesting. We can juxtapose this with the polarity point Cancer. Cancer tends to react to a situation, right? Moon ruled Cancer is very reactive to the environment. Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, if it's mature enough, has the ability to respond, right? Stop, pause, have enough patience to see what's actually going on and to respond. Now, the accountability part is to account for what's yours. And so this is a big, huge part of Capricorn. What is actually mine to be responsible for? And this is where boundaries come in. Capricorn sometimes, Capricorn can work itself to death, right? We know it is the workhorse. It's very much focused on accomplishment, can be achievement, in whatever range that can be. And so, of course, the shadow side can be, over focus on materialism, of needing to earn respect, of needing to climb the ladder, of needing to show everybody your boss, right? These are all things that can happen with Capricorn. But ultimately, what it's about is taking charge of your own life, being your own authority, getting in the driver's seat, and defining the rules for yourself, which doesn't mean throwing everybody else's out, because with Capricorn in particular, and the 10th house, we're learning to work within society. One of the great gifts of really smart, creative Capricorn people is they can come into an organization or come into a space that's already established and find ways to work within it. So there's kind of two ways to affect change, right? You can get within it and work within it and learn to work within the different parameters and get creative in there. Or you can do the more, I would say, Aquarian or especially Iranian way, which is, blow apart the structure and rebuild a new structure. There's a time and a place for both. But just because Capricorn is energy that harkens to the past, that likes to oftentimes to play it safe, that wants things to be stable, that honors legacy, that honors basically all the shoulders of all the humans and beings that we stand on to do what it is we do today, doesn't mean that it's not available for finding new and better ways to do things. It just has a little more conservative approach, right? Yeah. But visionary still. I use the word visionary for both Capricorn and Aquarius equally. I use it for Pisces too. So in some respects, we've just entered the last with Capricorn. Capricorn initiated the fourth and the last quadrant of the wheel, which is objective awareness of self. So starting with Capricorn, we actually start to get a view of ourselves as part of something greater, which is why that whole quadrant and all those signs, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, are visionary because they're actually able to see a bigger picture and a more objective, larger picture of themselves and where they fit in. It's like magical, really. And if you watch watch a really good leader, I don't mean a manager. Capricorn, Capricorns and those of us with strong Saturn energy, we find ourselves, or we choose management roles, or management roles choose us pretty naturally. Um, it's just, keeping to the rules, making sure things get done, uh, watching out for the integrity of things. That's just a natural, right? It's natural for Capricorn to do that. And back to earlier, I was talking about the parental energy. So what can happen with Capricorn is, especially if it's really strong in your chart, maybe you had to grow up early. Maybe as a kid, you had to look out for a parent who wasn't as stable. Sometimes this happens. Maybe you entered into parenthood or relationships or jobs early on and end up being responsible, at an early age or an early point. This is really common with Capricorn energy because the drive is to step in and take charge. And it can be very, very difficult, especially for Capricorns when they see people struggling or nobody's taking the lead. Nobody's getting things done. It's almost unbearable to watch people squirm and struggle and, waste time and be inefficient that way, which are all things that Capricorns, they discuss them. So the easier way is I'll just step in and do it myself, but that can lead to patterns of really draining yourself, really running yourself out of energy. And Capricorn may be able to go longer than most anybody else, but eventually Capricorn, it also will run out of energy. And if it stays too focused on having to work hard, get the job done, bring the money in, be the one who people look up to, not let anybody down, make sure that nothing bad happens to anybody. You start to add all these things up, and it takes a big toll, emotionally and physically. And Capricorn is very much linked up with the everything that holds us up and holds us in: skin, bones, uh, joints, uh, truly all the fascia, all the part of our body that holds us together. And in particular, the knees, is Capricorn area. But I have found very, very common, working with people and just existing, with people in my life with strong Capricorn. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes not until they reach their 70s. And then finally, their skeletal system just starts to give out, you know their backs go apart, they get terrible arthritis, right? They get different conditions or diseases where the body that was oftentimes looked at as being strong, and strength is an important thing for Capricorn, right? Capricorn doesn't want to be seen as weak. So you reach this point then where time, which is another Saturn Capricorn thing, takes its toll, because there wasn't enough self-care, right? There wasn't enough softness or tenderness mixed in there, right? There wasn't enough flexibility. So what can happen is all that rigidity, and Capricorn certainly can hold, it's a cardinal sign. So it's initiating things, but it's earthy energy, and its nature is, to want to make things into form, and then to want to make those forms last. And so in that respect, it can be very fixed, which can be fixed in its thinking. And I know it's not a fixed sign, but there's a fixity in here, right? There's um, a consolidation that holds a lot of weight, just like think like a big mountain, how that big amount of earth is hard to move, right? That's, in part what we're working with Capricorn, and especially if it has worked its butt off to get where it is. It doesn't make us very quick to want to do a turn in a different direction if we've worked really hard, one, to prove that it does work, and by our 3D standards is successful. It takes a lot to want to do something different. Capricorn is the sign that's associated with the devil card in the tarot. And I always find this association interesting. So we haven't talked about this yet here. Capricorn is also a very sensual, sexual sign. Like, it likes earthy pleasures. Um, it likes to indulge itself with different types of earthy things. And sometimes I think we skip over this with Capricorn. We make it too dry in the area of responsibility or work or meeting your goals, and we forget that it's a Earth is sensual sign. So the association with the devil card is helpful in this sense because there's lots of different ways to work with the devil in the tarot. And probably it may be the most difficult card to interpret because everybody's quote unquote devil is different, because the devil is what we each individually create outside of ourselves that we don't want to own in ourselves, right? So this has to do with shadow work. But I always think of it this way: with the devil card, it's like what bedevils you. What bedevils me may not bedevil you. When you look at this card, the imagery almost always shows the lovers, right? Two people chained up, but the chains are never locked. It represents how we lock ourselves up in false illusions and false judgments and false ideas. And we actually tie up and restrict our own nature, our natural potency to create abundance and to enjoy our experience on this earth. So with the devil and linked with Capricorn, I think oftentimes about how it's funny, we equally put stuff, I feel, on Capricorn that we do on the devil. Look, it's like we do the very same thing, just in different areas. And so this is just one where I've noticed it. So I've been working, at least with myself, to really open up my field with Capricorn. And one of those ways that I do that is that I know that, I believe in polarities, right? If we have one thing, there's always the opposite side, which means that any of the words that we typically give to Capricorn, the opposite is also going to be in that field. We just forget that a lot of the time. And one of the things also with Capricorn is when we were thinking about like limits or boundaries, or oftentimes we talk about, oh, Capricorn is constricting and restricting. Certainly can be, but a better question is why? And for me, I feel like that's the part of us that creates boundaries or limits, either one, because it's not safe to go beyond them, or two, because there's still something we need to figure out in that space. Capricorn holds us accountable whether or not we consciously realize that or not. And so we're oftentimes really quick, just like a video game, we just want to level up. We just want to move to the next thing. And we may have really missed a lot of what's going on at our current level. So, and I've heard people talk about this, like the rings of Saturn actually serve to hold you in your level until you're ready, to move into the next one. And that feels very true to me, that holding me back so I don't miss out on something important, something that will really help me, so that when I do move on to the next thing or into the next thing, I'm actually prepared. And also maybe just that I didn't miss the treasure right here or the blessings right here. I think we're fast to think about Capricorn in the sense of holding us back, but think of what if the holding back is for something good? We don't look at it that way as often. We also tend to look at Capricorn and its ruling planet Saturn as limitations that bring things in tighter or smaller. But it just rules limits. It's just associated with limits and boundaries in general. When you're working with Capricorn and Saturn, sometimes you need to expand them. That's still a boundary and a limit. But I try not to always think of it as making it smaller. Capricorn's helping you figure out the right space to give yourself so you can be the best you at that current time in that current cycle that you're in. Um, and that's such a different feel for it. Oh, one thing I didn't say about the devil card in the tarot is oftentimes it's also a sign to not take yourself so seriously, right? And oh my gosh, do we know how serious Capricorn can be? You know? And so this is in some ways like when you're working with that energy, what is the more what I guess this is what I would say. And my goal really with astrology, with myself and with anybody that I share it with, is to give us more room to experience more of what we are. That's really my whole aim is like, I just want to experience more of what's actually here for me, of what I am and of what life is, right? And astrology is such a good tool for helping us do that. There's so much room in Capricorn to go further. Oh, so, and so sometimes even we have to step away and even stop using some of the old words or the old examples or whatever labels, and see what comes out new for us when we play with the energy. I think about with Capricorn integrity a lot, and for me, integrity, it's I don't mean it in a sense of like an ethical thing, although meaning, and I don't look at it in the sense of saying this is a good thing or I'm committing to doing good things as far as integrity. When I say integrity, I just mean alignment between what's in my head, my thinking and my thoughts and my words and what's coming out of my mouth is in alignment with my heart, with what's really true for me and what's really coming from an authentic place. And both of those in alignment with my actions, what I'm actually doing in the world. Capricorn helps us come into alignment, to come into integrity with what we are. And we have to each discover that. It's not about saying this is a good thing, this is a bad thing, this is a right thing, this is a wrong thing, although that can happen in the Capricorn territory. But in many respects, we create those, judgments or taboos or warnings or labels of right and wrong, all of these things. We create them because we need to test them. And all of us, we get really excited about, oh, the energy to break free and liberation and be yourself and be authentic. And we forget that we would never be able to discover that if we didn't find ourselves in containers and too tight clothes and situations that are limiting. And we literally, we wouldn't have any impulse to individuate or break free if we didn't have some container to be operating in. So Capricorn has our back in wanting us to grow. And it's not that it just is helping us create containers so we can break out of them, although you got to say it's part of the process, right? You need all parts of the process to experience the process. But with Capricorn's also the part of us that's helping us have inner stability, to have enough objectivity that we're not just, carried away by every emotion or reaction or sensitivity that happens, that we're actually able to hold our ground and have a calm sense of strength that we can weather those storms, that we can be flexible. And the only way we get to find out how flexible we are is when we start moving things around that haven't been flexible, right? I mean, one thing doesn't exist without another. So all right. Well, I'm sure, as always, since it's impossible to cover everything that I did not, but I thank you for meeting me here, whatever time and space you're in, to explore Capricorn. And if you have any thoughts or ideas, please reach out. And until the next time, I wish you all well. Take good care.